Dougie.
Sam.
This summer will mark the end of an era for several iconic players at their current clubs. Mohamed Salah, Antoine Griezmann and more will call time on their illustrious tenures at some of Europe's great teams. Our question for today is, how do you replace them?
How do Liverpool actually replace Mo Salah? Because for the past 9 years, he's one of the best players in the club's history. And the obvious problem is there just aren't many players in world football who are either affordable, available, or can do anything like what he does.
I don't feel that we necessarily have to replace him.
Who should replace Mohamed Salah? Big boots to fill, no doubt.
Who is it then? Who is the replacement for Casemiro that the club are looking at?
France forward Antoine Griezmann is heading to America after Orlando City announced that he's signed a contract with the MLS side. Griezmann's move to the US brings to an end a 17-year spell in La Liga.
We cannot replace him. We cannot.
Yes, hello, we're back. It's another episode of The Truth. I am your host, Sam Tighe. Joining me is Dougie Critchley. Hello.
Hello, Sam. It is birthday week. It was my birthday last week. It's your birthday today. We're recording this on Tuesday as ever. So by the time this podcast or video goes live, it would be in the past. But happy birthday, Sam.
Thank you, buddy. March 31st, a momentous day for all of mankind.
Do you know any other people born on this day?
I haven't looked it up, actually. I'm certain that I'm the most notable.
I share mine with Keira Knightley.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
I do know that on the day I was born, the poll tax riots happened.
Ooh, so that's a big one.
Yes, good stuff. You know, when people buy like a newspaper, like the front of a newspaper from the day you were born, the front page of the newspaper from the day I was born was like country in disarray.
I just had a quick look. Ewan McGregor. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Me and Ewan. That's really
and Christopher Walken.
Okay,
you know him?
I know him.
Yeah,
yeah, that's great.
It's his birthday today as well.
That is illustrious company.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Right, no evil introduction for producer Jack this week for two reasons. One, he bought me a birthday pint before we started recording, so you can buy my friendship, and it comes for an incredibly reasonable fee. It's the cost of one Guinness. Also, his microphone doesn't work, so you might hear him shouting randomly from the background at certain points, but basically you're not going to hear him today because he doesn't have the facilities to talk.
Break.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, we'll get on with it. Actually, before we tuck into the topic, I just want to alert our listeners to a potentially groundbreaking bit of detective work from yours truly earlier today.
Huge.
That I did put in the WhatsApp group. I don't know if you saw. I was in an Uber earlier.
I was slightly confused by that, but yeah.
Okay, do you want me to explain it?
Yeah.
Well, detective work not for everyone. I was in an Uber earlier on my way from Sky Sports to a different part of West London to record this podcast, more or less. I was stuck in traffic. I was actually by Gunnersbury Station. I looked out the window and what do I see scrawled across a billboard in orange graffiti?
I couldn't read it.
Konsa. Konsa. Ezri Konsa.
Ezri, okay.
Now, the writing looked quite faded, quite old, quite weather-worn. And look, Ezri Konsa, Aston Villa star, current England international, he's not a West London boy, he's an East London boy. But he did spend one season at Brentford between 2018 and 2019.
1 season?
7 years ago. Yes, he was picked up by Villa very quickly because Dean Smith moved and took him with him more or less. So I'm just wondering, is that an original Konsa?
That could be.
Could be.
I think I might have said it on the podcast. I can't remember. I saw him in person, in the flesh in London.
He was at a restaurant,
6 weeks ago. Yeah, he was at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant. I wasn't. I was walking past the outside as a civilian. But he was there with Morgan Rogers.
Yeah, lovely stuff. He spent. I think he still lives down here. So he spends a lot of time. Well, yeah, footballers do strange things. But I mean, look, in a week where the identity of Banksy may have been revealed, we have a new mystery when it comes to graffiti. Was Ezri Konsa defending the box by day and defacing signs by night during his 1 year at Brentford?
Could well have. Big couple of months for him as well. I'm excited to see, hopefully, Ezri Konsa and Mark Gehi starting for England at the World Cup. I think they probably deserve to.
I think so too, yeah. Hopefully he gets back into the Champions League, wins the Europa League, and plays a starring role for England as they win the World Cup.
Love to see.
Wouldn't that be fantastic? Right, let's talk elite footballers.
Yeah.
Konsa sadly not quite in that bracket just yet.
Well,
we'll see.
Maybe one day.
We're talking elite footballers potentially ending iconic stints at top clubs. I'm going to use that phrase somewhat loosely because some of them are more iconic than others. And what the hell are those clubs going to do in response, Dougie? That's the question we're going to answer. And I think we should start with Mohamed Salah.
I think we should as well. It's the big one, isn't it? And one guy that won't replace him for sure is another guy born on this day, and this will be my final interjection on famous birthdays for the day. But Edinger Grover is also born today, but he will be not replacing Mo Salah at Liverpool. You can't imagine.
No way. Imagine if that was the move.
I know, crazy. Off the treatment table at Juve to replacing Salah. But yes, let's talk Mo Salah. And just quickly before we get into replacing Mo Salah, just give him the credit that he deserves. I know he's had a really difficult season. You know, some of that self-induced with that public sort of criticism of the club and Arne Slot, etc. But there is absolutely no way possible that the replacement will be as successful as Salah. I can't fathom it. I really can't, because 255 goals, 122 assists in 435 games. He's won every major honour available, including 2 Premier Leagues. He's won a Champions League as well. He's 4th in the all-time Premier League list for most Premier League goals. And most of the top players at the top are English and have played a lot longer in the Premier League than Mo Salah, who obviously had that stint with Fiorentina and Roma. He's 7th in the all-time assist charts. I think he's level with David Silva and just behind Bergkamp, so he might end up being sort of 4th or 5th by the time he leaves this summer. And he's a 3-time PFA Player of the Year award winner. That's more than anyone else in history. There are, I think it's 6 players that have won the award twice. He has won it 3 times. So the replacement just won't be as successful. What makes this harder in terms of replacing Salah is that Liverpool spent a massive amount last summer on forwards already, Ekitike, Isak, Wirtz. So the new replacement has to be signed with making that attack and the players already there work.
Yes.
So you might not actually look to sign a sort of like-for-like replacement. We can get onto that in due course. But there could also be a new manager in charge. Arne Slot's future, it doesn't feel absolutely certain. Who will the new manager want? It's fair to say that summer spending last year, for a variety of reasons, has not worked. They are 5th as it stands. They are 21 points behind leaders Arsenal. What makes it slightly easier in the short term is that Salah is coming off a really poor season. He's currently on 5 league goals. That's the same as Brighton's Diego Gomez or Arsenal's Martin Zubimendi. So in terms of his usual production levels, he's not been there. So there is less kind of immediate short-term pressure on his replacement. They don't need to come in and hit Salah levels of 20 league goals per season for him to be an improvement on Salah this season. But overall, still massive boots to fill, obviously. Now, I kind of went through all these suggestions, Sam, and kind of looked into a dream option and a realistic option. But I've kind of spoken quite a lot there, sort of setting the scene. So what were your thoughts with this Salah replacement?
My thoughts were, if they were going to try and replace him with a world-class or top-range right winger, if they were to try and do that, I agree. There's lots of different scenarios that we have to play out here, including manager, shape, how it fits with the strikers, etc. The bad news for Liverpool is that quite a lot of those options, the world-class options, are already at top teams that they will just not be able to get. So to run through very quickly, not at the top of my head, but I put a quick list together of like the best right wingers. Lamine Yamal is at Barcelona. He's going nowhere. Michael Olise is at Bayern Munich. He's going nowhere. And he's definitely not joining Liverpool if they don't make it into the Champions League. Bukayo Saka is not leaving Arsenal. He's just signed a new deal. PSG would be insane to get rid of Desiree Doué.
Dembele's not leaving.
Yeah, Dembele's not leaving. Rafinha is also probably by trade a right winger, but he's not going to be going anywhere, is he? Like, why would he leave Barcelona? Then you've got players like Esteval, who Chelsea have bagsied. You're just not going to get him. Even someone like Yan Diomande feels borderline unachievable for anyone this summer, because I think Leipzig know what they've got and they don't want to let go so early. They've spoken to that effect in the last couple of months, saying it's not just going to be a one season for him. We'd be crazy to say goodbye so soon. So already you're sort of whittling down this list and you're thinking, this is actually really quite tough to find the Salah-esque replacement here. You might have to drop down a little bit lower, or maybe go to a slightly different age range than you would ideally like to try and find this player. I've got some suggestions here, but since you've got such a neat dream signing and realistic, I'll throw it back to you. You go for that and I'll flesh out the rest.
Yeah, so as you've already mentioned, the dream, I think, is Michael Olise. That's what all Liverpool fans are saying online. I totally agree with you.
The dream is Yamal or Olise.
Yeah, Yamal's definitely not happening. Olise is almost definitely not happening. I just can't really imagine it. I mean, he has had 3 years of Premier League experience worth saying as well. I think a number of Premier League clubs missed an opportunity to sign him. He wanted to join Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich is, for many people, the absolute dream club to play for. They hoover up 70% of domestic headlines. You are a massive star. You are almost guaranteed to win trophies every year. You're playing with some of the best players in the world. You have exalted status in Germany. Yeah. Why would he want to swap working with Harry Kane and Joshua Kimmich and all that Pavlovic and all these other stars that they got and Luis Diaz for a kind of transition year at Liverpool? You do feel like Salah is a big player to replace. Van Dijk's aging. Robertson Konate is uncertain. They've got to try and work out how to get Isak, Wirtz, Ekitike going as well. He would also be another £100 million plus signing. I just don't know whether Liverpool can afford to do that.
I don't know if it's a question of finances. It might be a question of are they reluctant to do that after they did it 3 times last year, 80 million up, and it went wrong for various reasons on 2 of those. Not saying they're done, but obviously it wasn't a great start. So there's all those questions. Yeah, some slightly more realistic options here if they do want to go down this route. And I've largely picked players here who I also think, almost all of these players can play other positions too. So it has to give you a little bit of positional flexibility, because I think that's what's going to be required from this position. Morgan Rogers, to start with, is probably gettable at 80 million plus.
Have your tears dried on your laptop as you wrote that?
Yeah. It's a bit early, but you might want to just bite the bullet. Ryan at Bournemouth is an absolute cannonball, and I think he could probably end up profiling as a number 9 in the future. Anthony Gordon might well be on the market, given that Newcastle may have to sell this summer. Kenan Yildiz is amazing, and I will put him in every discussion ever. And Jared Bowen is much older than they would probably like to buy in this area, but Jared Bowen is probably the most equivalent Premier League proven attainable version of Salah that you can find as a left-footed right winger with speed in behind, good physics. Like it does actually check quite a lot of boxes, as much as it doesn't sound that amazing. So that's the ballpark I would be in if they're looking to go ahead and sign a right winger. I don't think they necessarily have to sign a right winger though, because if you are going to look at Ekitike and Isak up front, if you are going to move to a 4-4-2 or a diamond that they've kind of teased this year, Wirtz is the 10, Szoboszlai and Gravenberch is the 8s. Actually, the glaring need is a 6. So would they be better off spending all of that money, and we're talking 70 million to 100 million, on a world-class number 6, which is just as hard to find, by the way. So it's not like I'm swimming with ideas here, but these actually are very difficult questions to answer for Liverpool heading into the summer, because we don't really know what the plan is. Xabi Alonso could walk through the door, install a back 3, Frimpong could be right wing back again, and all of a sudden they've got Wirtz supporting 2 strikers. The whole thing changes again. Well,
exactly. I think that's why I was kind of reluctant to settle on my realistic option that I eventually went for. And I hadn't quite factored in or maybe seen those statements from Leipzig, but I do think the best option right now, given the fact he can play on both sides, and Gakpo has had a really poor season, and Diaz has left, and Jota has unfortunately passed away. I think they need someone that can play on both sides. I do think Yan Diomande is probably the player that I would go for this window. Whether that is realistic, whether Leipzig sell for less than even £80 million this summer, I'm not sure. I think they're in a great bargaining position, as you say. And he is also relatively raw. You know, he only played 500 league minutes for Leganés last year. He's played 26 Bundesliga games, and I think he looks absolutely electric. But do they want to see a little bit more? But what I liked about Yan Diomande is a lot of Liverpool fans that I've seen talking about this team this year, they just think the team is quite dull and boring and predictable. Yan Diomande is the entire opposite of that, and I think he'd be so fun. His dribble numbers are absolutely massive. He's performed in big games, a hat-trick against Frankfurt, an assist versus Dortmund, a goal versus Stuttgart. He's only 19 though, so it is big pressure. But if you, as you say, talk about Xabi Alonso coming in, maybe he doesn't need to be a starter right away as well. Maybe he can fit when they change systems. So that's why I went with Yan Diomande.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, look, RB Leipzig can say we don't want to sell him, but you know, if somebody put 100 million on the table, we'll see exactly how strong that stance
is. Aside from Gvardiol, unless I'm missing someone obvious, they generally do sell at fairly achievable. I say achievable, it's obviously massive sums, but Premier League achievable amounts.
Well, like 60 million, basically.
60, 70 million, which is kind of doable.
Gvardiol was slightly higher than that, but everyone else, including Simons last summer, was 60 million euros. So, but Diomande would be more.
I would have thought so.
They know. They're not stupid.
They're sitting on a gold mine.
They really are. Right. Let's move on to Antoine Griezmann.
Oof. Yeah. So again, when we talk about icons, I think in many ways, Griezmann is a little bit harder to replace than Salah, given the fact that Salah has tailed off to this extent this year. I do think Griezmann has become much more of a bit part player this year.
Certainly,
which is interesting. He's actually played less than 30 minutes in 14 La Liga games. But
he hasn't started that many games.
He's not started that many games, but this is an absolute club icon. You know, he's had very bad personal timing about when he's moved between clubs, but he's missed kind of Atleti's best moments.
Keeps missing out on all the big
trophies.
trophies,
The
doesn't
dominant
he?
player of their last sort of 10 years or so. You know, he's their third in all-time appearances. He scored 52 more goals than anyone else in their history. Only Koke has ever provided more assists. This is a bona fide club icon. Last summer, they signed Alex Baena. That felt like looking ahead to a Griezmann-less scenario.
They've been signing players hand over fist in these areas for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Thiago Almada, all these guys.
Raspadori, who's already left the club, but in January they signed Ademola Lookman. And if you go onto those classic scouting websites, you know, Transfermarkt, for example, and I just quickly ranked most expensive second strikers in the world, Ademola Lookman's top. And I'm not suggesting that's why Atleti did it, but there is a clear sort of stylistic similarity between Lookman and the positions that he can play and Griezmann can play as well. Obviously, Griezmann can also play in a midfield three. He's a unicorn of a player and a phenomenal servant for France and Atleti for so long as well. How do you replace his technical quality? I mean, they've already signed Raspadori, who's gone. They've signed Lookman. I actually think you potentially look in midfield because Gallagher didn't work out as a signing, already left the club. Koke's 34, Llorente's 31, and they did sign some players for the future in Cardozo, etc. But I do think they could potentially do with a more box-to-box midfield presence. I actually think they're looking okay up front. João Gomez from Wolves has been linked. You're not potentially going to like this, but I wonder whether they could do with someone like Amadou Onana.
Do you know what? He's on my list for a later player.
Really?
Yeah.
I just really, really rate Amadou Onana, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, potentially because all his midfield partners have been injured this year. But I love his Premier League experience with Everton. I love it with Villa. I love the variety of different roles he can play. I love how dominant he would be in La Liga in terms of the physicality he could bring. I think he's underrated technically. I really like Amadou Onana.
I will discuss Amadou Onana a little bit more on our next player. I didn't go to midfield. I did actually try to look at second strikers where possible. And I've got a variety of different players here. Some I'm thinking are really, really good fits. Some I'm really not sure about. So basically I put 5 on the page and thought, let's see what Dougie thinks. Yeah. And it is a smorgasbord. So if you're thinking about the ability to create and score and be a big personality in the team in terms of attacking, but also underpin it with a bit of work rate. There's some... So I'm going to put Kenan Yildiz back in the conversation again. Yeah. I told you I'd do that, and I mean it. This is where I'm sad that Jack doesn't have a microphone, because there's a part of me that thinks that Trincao deserves another shot at this kind of thing after kind of flaming out of Barca. Probably not really his fault. He's developed into a very, very good player for Sporting and does spend some time just behind the striker, with Pedro Gonçalves actually a little bit wider on the left sometimes. So I feel like Trincao and Simeone would be a reasonable mix. Jack, give me a yelp if you agree. Woo! There you go. Lovely stuff.
If Simeone's still there, again, similar situation to Slot.
True. And there's a part of me, you know, I was just running the profile through and thinking, right, who ticks the Simeone boxes? There's a big part of me that's like, what would Morgan Gibbs-White look like at Atletico Madrid? Like, there's a lot of qualities there that do suit the manager. What would that look like? I'm interested.
Yeah.
But then post-Simeone, so if they went to someone who is, I guess, less of a taskmaster, this one feels impossible given the Real Madrid link, but Nico Paz would be just ideal.
I thought about him.
And there's also, you know, if Spurs were to go down and needed a Xavi Simons bailout, then this is the kind of player that it would just end up rocking up on loan at somewhere like Atletico Madrid. It just feels like the sort of thing that would happen.
But you could do that for a number of Spurs players, like Dejan Kulusevski in this Atleti side, or even a James Maddison or something. You know, do they want to stay in the Championship? I mean, they would have missed an entire year of football as well. But
we will see. But I think you can go a number of different ways with this. It will be easier to replace this player because he has already been somewhat phased out. Salah is more difficult because he's still a very, very big part of this team, even though he is not performing to anywhere near the same level as we've discussed. But yeah, lots of options. I mean, look, when you're out there looking for a second striker, you can kind of go to any pond, right? Like it's not too difficult to be quite creative in that sense. And they might already have the player on the books.
Yeah.
It might already be.
I really like Alex Baena. I know it's not really clicked this year.
It might already be Baena, We'll see. Right, let's go more workmanlike.
Yeah, Casemiro.
Let's talk Casemiro.
Yeah.
This is why I wanted to use the term icon quite loosely because he's not a Man United icon. Although I think he started to generate a lot more goodwill just towards the end of this Man United tenure than he had maybe a year ago. And people are sort of more willing to look at him as maybe a net positive over the course of his career at United. Yeah. Whereas I think 12 months ago, he was looking like a net negative.
For sure. I think it's a fair deal. I think Real Madrid will be happy to have got £60 million. And I can't even remember, did they then sign Tchouaméni and Camavinga, etc.? They rebuilt their midfield fairly effectively. They'll look to add to it this summer, no doubt as well. But Man United got one great season, two middling ones with some real low points, and then a very good finish. And I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
And he's added a lot of personality to this side. He's added actually quite a lot of goal threat as well to this Man United side at various points as well.
6 set-piece goals this season. No one has more.
It's massive and big goals recently as well. He got a goal and an assist in a 3-2 win against Fulham. He also scored against Villa in a 3-1 win. So I dread to think what he's going to do at the Stadium of Light in a couple of weeks' time, because he's having it out with the truth right now, is Casemiro. But the difficulty with Casemiro and this situation for Man United is they potentially need to sign 2 midfielders this summer, because Agate, I think it's probably fair to say, hasn't really worked out. I don't know whether they can offload him. I'm not sure what sort of fee you get for Agate, but there are other options. Kobbie Mainoo, who looks like an absolute bona fide starter, got to start every week now. The Fletcher twins and Toby Collier, who's played 3 games on loan at Hull this year. So I think they need at least one midfielder. I think the dream option, as it will be for a number of Premier League clubs this summer and clubs potentially abroad as well, is Elliot Anderson. I think that is the kind of logical fit.
Yep.
The one concern I have with Elliot Anderson and a Kobbie Mainoo midfield, they're not the biggest. They're really not the biggest. And actually, Elliot Anderson always does surprise me when I watch him live on TV that he's not necessarily physically dominated, but he is quite slight. But having said that,
he's powerful though. He is. Yeah. It's the lack of maybe height. I guess.
Yeah. But it doesn't really seem to affect his play, because he's 3rd for tackles in the league this year behind João Palhinha and James Garner. He's creating 1.6 chances per 90. That's more than Gibbs White. It's the same as Bryan Mbeumo. He's completing 1.3 dribbles. That's the same as Jack Grealish. It's more than Cole Palmer. He's just been so well rounded this year. So I think he'd be the dream option. But Manchester City supposedly want him as well. Rodri's been flirting with Real Madrid. Bernardo Silva looks like he's leaving Man City. Elliot Anderson will probably have his pick between Manchester clubs, maybe even Real Madrid come in for him as well. In terms of a future option that I don't think is quite ready and maybe not necessarily the right nailed-on fit, but could be a good second midfielder if they wanted to sign 2, Ayoub Bouadi from Lille. I know he had a really difficult tie against you guys recently in the Europa League, but I've been really impressed with what I've seen from him.
Well, he was up against a marvellous side.
Yeah. But he's had some great moments in the Champions League in the last few years against Real Madrid. And he's been very decent for a number. He's very, very well-rounded, great in dribbling through tight spaces. I'm not sure whether he's too stylistically similar to play alongside Mainoo. Maybe you want more of a destroyer type. But he's one for the future, I would think. But the best option for me is Bruno Guimaraes. And I don't know whether they can get him, but he would be amazing. He's 28 years old. I've for years at Football Daily, we always used to recommend signings that were under the age of 22 and talk about a sell-on value. Man United have a few more years left of Bruno Fernandes. They've got some players that are going to be maturing really nicely in a couple of years. I think signing a really top elite midfielder that knows the Premier League, that is ready to hit the ground running, could be absolutely massive. Bruno Guimaraes can play as a 6. He can play as an 8. He's been phenomenal for Newcastle when fit this season, and phenomenal ever since he really joined. If they could get him or Tonali, but I'm leaning more towards Bruno Guimaraes because I feel like it's maybe a little bit more likely, given he's that little bit older and maybe Newcastle would be willing to cash in on him. I think he'd be amazing for Man United.
Some good suggestions there. Interesting ones. Just on Bouadi first. It's very early for him, and we're still at the stage here where, when very good young players get played in different positions to increase their understanding of the game around them. Managers often put them in different spots. Whether or not it's because of injuries, I don't know, but Bouadi is spending some time at right back at the moment. He spent some time at right back against Villa. The definition of still learning his trade. So I think he's going to be great, but would probably just hold fire on him a little bit there. Who else was it? Elliot Anderson, brilliant. Obviously expensive, but brilliant. Bruno Guimaraes, 28. but worth it. But worth the. He's unbelievably good at basically everything, and an obvious leader on the pitch. Incredible tempo setting player, pass picker,
physical.
He is. I can't swear on the pod, but he's a nightmare to play against. Like, he should be booked in every game, and he gets away with it. He's that player. It's the Fernandinho style. How are you doing this?
Cheeky.
It's a talent. So if you have Bruno Guimaraes in your midfield, you have a lot of flexibility to do kind of whatever you want with the other spot because he's that good at everything. You wouldn't be constrained to pair this player. You have to use this player. Bruno opens up so many possibilities for everybody else. It will be interesting to see if he is on the market. I suspect Newcastle are going to have to sell a player, so let's see who it's going to be. Guimaraes and Gordon and Tonali are, and Livramento and Hall. Yeah, they've got some really good players.
Yeah.
So we'll see who it might be. It could be him. They're still looking at Carlos Baleba. At this point, I cannot recommend signing Carlos Baleba because he's had a pretty bad season. And I do feel like if you spend 80 million plus on a player...
Do you think it'd still cost that much?
Yeah, I think he would because Brighton can play the waiting game.
Yeah.
They know he's 22. Like, they know he will bounce back. They can say, look, this guy he had a bad season, but he'll be better next season. We know this for a fact.
They've got the bargaining power.
So I would not bring a player in under those circumstances personally, especially if he's just going to cost that much. If it was 40, I'd do it, but it's not. It's going to be at least double. You mentioned a player. I've got a whole list here, by the way.
Like
my God. Like I ran the list through earlier and I was like, there's so many different ways you can maybe solve this problem. Where shall I start? Right. There are rumours that Eduardo Camavinga could be available in the summer.
I've got another video coming out this week where I recommend him for Chelsea.
I mean, I recommend him for anybody.
He's amazing.
It's not really quite happened in the way that he wanted it to at Real Madrid, but if he is available, there will be a queue. And
a few injury issues last couple of years is the one downside.
Yeah, absolutely. But could be a great opportunity. You mentioned James Garner in the tackles and interceptions. A homecoming for the boy. Mini Valverde, Thomas Tuchel has called him. He is really good. It's interesting.
Great on his England debut.
It's interesting. Morten Hjulmand. Just because Ruben Amorim is gone doesn't mean that Morten Hjulmand isn't a good player and would probably sort out quite a few issues for Man United. Mateus Fernandes of West Ham. Baller.
Brilliant.
And I do look at him and think, do you remember when City seemed like on the cusp of signing Lucas Paquetá and then the betting allegations came in, it got scuppered? I do wonder if this could just be like a V2. Like, could they just sign Mateus Fernandes
with
from
the
West
same
Ham
agreement
and sort of just sort of do what they always intended to do with Lucas Paquetá
on the contract?
Yeah, why not? And then let's come to Onana here, Amadou Onana.
You're being very nice and fair, recommending
a lot of
Villa players for other clubs.
It's not. Yeah, and this isn't me trying to ship Onana out or anything like that because I don't think it would be a great sale for Villa because he cost 50 million 2 years ago. So his book value is still pretty high. So Villa aren't going to get a huge benefit from a sale like this unless it's like 70, 80, right? Because there's still 30 million left on the books. But Onana at 6'6", rangy, covers tons of his zone of like influence is crazy big, absolutely crazy big. But he needs a player beside him who can really take control of the ball and really dictate play. He cannot dictate play. Well, Kobbie Mainoo can. So I do look at Onana maybe and think that could be a good shout. So I put all these names in the list, tons of them, I've just read off loads, and then I just decided to start filtering them by 187 centimetres or taller, because a huge part of what Casemiro brings to the table is his ability in both boxes. Gary Neville has not stopped talking about this for the last month on commentary. Casemiro defending the box, attacking the box, just brilliant.
It's amazing, isn't it?
He's currently rivaling Thomas Souček for the Ballon de Box award. So if you filter it by 187 centimetres, which is 6'2", roughly, and this is by Opta heights, and footballers' heights are not policed properly.
No.
One of my big bugbears of the sport. They are not maintained, not in the way that American schools and teams, they do actually measure their players. So take it with a pinch of salt. The first names on the list, for obvious reasons, unachievable. Rodri, Tchouaméni, Rice, Nico Gonzalez. You're not going to get those players. Amadou Onana and Victor Froholt.
There we go.
Interesting. Archie Gray at Spurs. I don't think he's 6'2".
He doesn't look it.
He doesn't look it. I think
he's quite slight,
but
though,
I think
isn't he?
he's 6 foot.
Yeah.
And I think he will be in that area. Archie Gray's amazing.
He's great,
and it's one of those things where like
he's rising in this time as well.
If Spurs were to go down, everyone would try and nick him.
Yeah,
because of all the players at Spurs right now to look good in a bad situation, Archie Gray is earning tons of respect from everybody around the country.
Bergvall as well.
So Bergvall. So, well, he's not him, but as in he's a good prospect.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different ways you can go there, but keeping in mind the height and the presence, I do genuinely look at Onana and to an extent for a halt there and think that could be the answer. Ground coverage plus penalty box defending and attacking. Really important to consider when you look at Casemiro.
I love it. Yeah, I think only Samu has been directly involved in more league goals for FC Porto than Froholt this year as well. So he's got that goal threat, which Casemiro definitely has. And people that watch a lot more Premier League than me, including Jack Collins, our producer, who has no mic today, unfortunately. Silent Jack. We've silenced him. He absolutely loves him.
Jack is like the biggest Victor Froholt fan on the planet.
Yeah, it was good. It's good.
So good stuff. Right. Well, look, just a couple more names before we
please
finish.
Do.
Because you mentioned one earlier, and we should mention these because they might leave their clubs too. Bernardo Silva, I would estimate, is like 90% out the door at Man City at this point. You look at the recent comments where he talks about how if City were located in Southern Europe, he'd stay forever, but they're not. So
He's done enough.
Long old stint.
Like
City.
9 years of 50 games a year.
I don't even know where to start. This is why it's a footnote, because I don't even know where you'd start with this if you were City. I don't even know. With Casemiro, I can isolate traits and say like, okay, so you need to replace this. You could probably say the same for Salah. I don't even know where you would start.
Yeah.
Which traits would you even try with Bernardo? Because he plays 6 different positions perfectly. He has all these different traits, and like
try and find a guy that can play 9 positions well.
And no matter
like 10
how
Coop miners, and that's about it.
And no matter how City change their team, he's always a big part of it. No matter which position he ends up playing, and they've changed a lot this year, and they've ended up with him in central midfield next to Rodri recently, and it's worked really well. But go and show me a central midfielder who can
hold on to the ball,
basically do what he does in central midfield, but also pop up on the right wing and become a temporary winger for 3 minutes and then pop back in and leave no gaps. So yes, he's not quite as good as he was back when, he and remember the City Liverpool battles, the Klopp Pep battles, Bernardo and Fernandinho against Wijnaldum and Fabinho and Henderson. They were absolutely remarkable.
2019 to like 2022, Bernardo Silva was
just
phenomenal.
Outrageous. I mean, going even further back because Monaco, he was special. I don't even know where he'd start with this. I don't even have the answer. I didn't write any names down because I decided it was impossible. But he needs to be brought up. No.
Imagine. I would sign, if I was City, I would sign a central midfielder to replace Bernardo Silva. I know that sounds obvious, but I think they've got more issues in central midfield than they do potentially on the wings going forward.
Mateus Fernandes then.
Mateus Fernandes.
V2. Last one quickly then. Robert Lewandowski's contract is up at Barcelona at the end of the season. You're never quite sure what happens next with Barcelona with the finances and the levers and all sorts of stuff. But Lewandowski, he could conceivably leave. Is he the same age as me? I think is he 30?
He might even be. I think he's a tiny bit older, to be fair.
A bit older than me, so he is washed.
That's revealing
really washed. Look,
You've got your best years in front.
Retain
Lewandowski
him.
Less so.
Unlike with Bernardo and these guys who either are confirmed out of the door or look likely, I really don't know where we sit with Lewandowski. But if you were Barcelona, what would you do next? Because replacing him is not easy, even though he is. I don't want to say bit part because that's wrong, but you know what I mean.
No, definitely.
He is not ever present because he can't be.
No, exactly. There's so many rumours at the moment that they're going to try and sign and maybe be able to sign Alessandro Bastoni. And I can't imagine a situation where Barcelona, with their finances of the last few years, are able to sign Bastoni and Lewandowski, potential future Lewandowski level player, whether that's Julian Alvarez, who they've been linked with a lot. You can't sign Julian Alvarez and Bastoni in one summer, surely, if you're Barcelona.
Alvarez cost Atleti a bomb.
Yes.
It was like 80 million euros.
And he must have 3 years left on his contract, I would have thought. I think they'll want 80, 90, maybe even 100 million
pounds.
Also,
the director of sport at Atleti, Matteo Alemany, he used to play, he used to do Barca's recruitment. And Laporta has not said very nice things about him. Mm-hmm. He said that Deco knows way more about football. So I don't think that's the way to grease the wheels for a deal for Alvarez, mate.
It just doesn't feel like it's happening. The current speculation that I've seen a little bit of Barcelona fans, I don't know whether it's just fans or actual reports, is it, that they're looking at Aslani, who plays for Hoffenheim, who's like barely really got going in his career as kind of we can hold off for a year and we'll get Bastoni. Maybe that's the way to go, because I do think they need... Because you do have Rafinha and you've got Ferran Torres and you might have Rashford and you've got Yamal. I think they can get away with the season without a real top striker, whereas I don't think they can do another year without signing a really top left-sided centre-back.
Yeah, maybe it just waits and maybe they get Lewandowski to do a 1-year deal or something like that. I mean, that seems like the way to go. Hansi Flick really has only ever managed teams with Robert Lewandowski in it. So,
but even I know he's missed a lot of chances in the last couple of months, but Ferran Torres has scored a lot of goals this season.
He absolutely has. And look, Rashford could be signed permanently. He could be thrown up front. Yep. I'm going to put something really quite random out there.
Come on.
Could they just sign the first player we mentioned on this podcast and just play him up front? Mohamed Salah.
Wow.
Like, could Salah just play up front in La Liga for because he just
probably.
I don't know. It just occurred to me earlier while I was thinking about it. It sounds initially quite crazy. Then you're like, hang on, yes, and then you're like, well, hang on a minute.
Wouldn't Liverpool really regret allowing him to leave on a free if he then goes to Barcelona?
Well, maybe it wouldn't be a free if it was Barca. Maybe it's
why are they letting him go on a free anyway? He's still got a year left in his contract. Get 20 million from Saudi Arabia.
Again, maybe it's.
I feel like that's at least a player's wages for an entire year.
Maybe
it's a top player's wages.
Maybe it won't be a free. Maybe it will be a cheap deal. I don't know. The one young player that I could pick out that I think Hansi Flick would really like is Christian Kofane at Bayer Leverkusen, who I am increasingly smitten with. Probably a 50, 60 million pound deal though. So again, can you afford it?
I can't remember how much it was last year, but yeah, he won't be cheap.
Yeah, he was not that much. And he's now very, very good. Even when Leverkusen were being quite firmly outplayed by Arsenal, Kofane looked great. So I do think he's the kind of striker Flick would quite like. He looks Lewandowski-esque in certain ways. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But most likely they're probably the big pole gets another year.
Go and sign Igor Thiago. Give him a run.
Jeez. What a glow up for Igor Thiago after his knee injury. Right. That is 5 big names. And there are far more over the course of the summer that we're going to be talking about, because Ibu Konate's contract saga will rumble on, as you mentioned. Rudiger's deal is up. Vlahovic is out of contract, finally. Marcos Senesi, Harry Wilson, John Stones, Matthias Jensen, a Jack favourite, Lorenzo Pellegrini are all out of contract as far as I can see. The list is a long one.
But it's an interesting topic. We can definitely come back to it, I think, especially so because you've got to go and eat some steak.
Oh, yes, for sure. I have a porterhouse steak at a restaurant in Canary Wharf with my name on it.
Yes.
So let's say goodbye.
Medium rare?
Yes.
Nice.
For sure. Thank you, Dougie.
Not a sadist. Hello. No, not hello. Goodbye. Goodbye, Sam. Sorry.
Thank you, Dougie.
I was thinking about steak.
It's the end of the podcast.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, I was ready for round 2.
Okay, cool. Well,
the
Jack,
steak episode.
After I leave, Jack can come sit in this seat and he can have a microphone. He can finally say, I think Trincau's rubbish. Thank you, Jack. He's waving. Cool. And thank you to you, listener. See you same time next week.